In this video, I'm going to show you how to work with hash tables in Java. So in Java, we have this map interface, which is a contract that declares all the methods that map data structures should provide. Let's have a quick look at the documentation over here. So map is an interface, and over here, you can see various implementations of this interface. Again, 80% of the time, you're only going to use 20% of these implementations. The one that you will use most of the time is HashMap. We also have hash table, which is an older implementation. It's considered legacy and you shouldn't use it in new applications. So most of the time we use HashMap. We also have concurrent HashMap, which is used in multi-threaded applications that have multiple threads working with HashMap. That is an advanced topic, so let's not worry about it. Now back to IntelliJ. Let's say we want to store our employees in a HashMap. So here we need a key and a value. For the key, we're going to use the employee number. Let's imagine that this is going to be an integer. For the value, we can store the employee's name or an employee object, literally anything. In this demo, we're going to store employees' names. So the value is going to be a string. Now we type map. Look, this interface is also a generic interface. So here we have two generic parameters. We should specify the type of key and value. So our keys are going to be integers and our values are going to be strings. Again, here we could have an employee object or a data object, anything. Now let's import the interface. All right. We call this variable map and initialize it like this, new hash map. So map is an interface or a contract, and hash map is an implementation of this interface. Okay. Now let's look at the useful methods in this interface. So we have put for adding a key value pair in our hash map. Let's say employee number 1 is Mosh and employee number 2 is John and employee number 3 is Mary. Now we can print this hash map on the console. So this is how they are represented. We have a collection of key value pairs. 1 equals Mosh, 2 equals John, and so on. Now, what if we insert a key value pair, but the key already exists, but this time the value is going to be different? Let's say Marianne. What do you think is going to happen? Well, let's take a look. So the previous value was overwritten with the new value. So in hash maps, we cannot have duplicate keys. Now, what about null values? What if we add a key value pair, but the value is null? That is perfectly fine. We can store null values in hash maps. But what about null keys? As you can see, that is perfectly fine as well. Now, does this have an application in the real world? Not that I can think of. But this is something that sometimes they ask you in interviews. They ask you if hash maps allow null keys or null values. The answer is yes to both these. We also have the remove method for removing a key value pair. So map.remove, we pass the key, in this case null. Now that key is gone. We can also get the value of a key using the get method. So map.get3. This will return a string because our values are string objects. So we store it over here and then print it on the console. There you go. We can also check the existence of a key or a value. So we have map.contains key, let's say 3, and map.contains value. Now both these methods return a Boolean value, but they have different time complexities. Contains key runs in O of 1, but contains value runs in O of n. Here's the reason. When we call the contains key method, our hash map will get this key and pass it to its hash function. It will figure out where this object should be stored. Then it will look it up. If there is an object at that location, it will return true. Otherwise, it will return false. So this operation is super fast. It doesn't involve iterating over all the objects. In contrast, when we call the contains value method, our hash map cannot rely on its hash function. It has to iterate over all the objects and compare their value with this argument. That is why we have O of n here. Now finally, let me show you how to iterate over a hash map. So we type a for loop for var item in map. Look, we have a compilation error here because we cannot iterate over hash maps. But here we have two useful methods, entry set and key set. Key set returns a list of keys, and entry set returns a list of key value pairs. Both these lists are iterable. So here we can iterate over the list of keys. In each iteration, item is going to be one key. So we can print it on the console. We get 1, 2, 3, beautiful. In contrast, entry set returns a list of key value pairs. So in each iteration, item will be a key value pair. If we print it on the console, we see something like this: key equals value. Now this object has a couple of getters. We can get the key or the value. We can also set the value. So this is how we work with hash tables in Java. Next, we're going to look at a popular interview question that involves using hash tables.